There's nothing easy about innovation. It may start with a bright idea, something no one has thought of before, but the hard work is turning your idea into something real. You need to bang a few rocks together, find out which way the wind is blowing, and test your theories to make sure you're putting your plan in the best light.
We're incredibly excited to have you here with us today while we hear about search engine optimization from HubSpot. And Jose will be sharing his thoughts as well as what HubSpot has learned along the way. This event is a great part of Domi Station's partnership with the HubSpot Startup Program. So we're really excited to share this. If you would like to learn more, check out HubSpot/startups on domistation.org. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts on this, so be sure to share your comments right on our live streams. With that, I'll have Jose come up and share a little bit about himself and get right into it.
Hey, Robert. By the way, that was a pretty cool intro. That was exciting. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. About my background real quick. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. I consider myself an entrepreneur. We have our business that we're trying to grow here at home. So, I come from HubSpot. I work at HubSpot, but I would say my affinities with entrepreneurship and startups. So I'm very excited to be here to talk about focus on SEO and how to grow with this technique in 2021.
Right. Well, we could not be more excited to hear your thoughts and everything you have to share with us. With that, let's go ahead and get started with your presentation.
Let's do it. And so, and by the way, it's supposed to be interactive. So as we go along, make sure that you add your comments or questions, and we'll make pauses throughout the presentation to answer them. We'll also have time at the end for Q&A. So the content itself is maybe about 35 minutes, and then we have the full hour to discuss SEO. So with that in mind, I'll get started. And as Robert mentioned, this is brought to you by this partnership that we have with Domi Station and HubSpot for Startups. And, HubSpot in general is also very passionate about startups. We have a program where we support startups and entrepreneurs. There's actually two different programs. We actually have a venture fund where we invest in SaaS startups to help them grow faster. So I won't be talking about that today. Just if you want to learn more, just go to hubspot.com/startups. But with that in mind, I'm going to just get going. So today we're going to be talking about SEO. Now, this is not something new. And so we're not going to be defining what SEO is. What we're going to be talking about is how SEO has actually been changing, especially in the last 5-7 years, and how that's culminated in companies like HubSpot, who are really strong at SEO, rethinking how we go about ranking organically and winning the game at being found in Google. So we're going to talk about that evolution. Then we're going to talk about how that evolution resulted into what we call the topic cluster strategy, and how this innovative way of trying to win at SEO really can help you do more, have a bigger impact in your business, and generating more demand and more attention for your businesses as you grow. And then we're going to finalize today's session with an actual 3-step process to creating these topic clusters. So again, we're going to talk about how it has changed, what's the new way of doing SEO, and then we're going to have a very actionable 3-step process that you can execute for your businesses to start doing better SEO and grow better. So that in mind, let's start with what's changed. And so to know what's changed, we need to go back, and we need to go back to about 2013. Now, 2013 is a while back, it's 7 years. Now, these things that they happened a while ago, but the effect of them tend to kind of be delayed in time. And so the actual effect of what we call the Hummingbird update of 2013 really were starting to take notice in 2016, 2017. That's when it really started impacting businesses. And definitely today in 2020, you can't execute SEO without having the implications of Hummingbird and the subsequent updates that Google made to the search engine algorithm in your execution. So what happened with Hummingbird? Hummingbird, there's always updates to Google's way of optimizing search, but Hummingbird was a special one because Hummingbird really laid the groundwork for processing natural language, for voice search. And what really happened was Google made a huge switch from keyword-based ranking to contextual ranking. So in the past, what Google will try to do is they would try to match the actual words in your search query to articles. And so these articles were being, and content was being written optimizing for those keywords. Now, what happened is as Google became more intelligent, they realized that the intent of Google and the intent of people using Google search is actually looking for answers to questions. And to get the better answers for those questions, they needed to embed search intent and context into the search. So, and I'll give you an example. When you search for weather, right? If you search for Abraham Lincoln, you're going to get probably one of the first results is going to be Wikipedia, right? It's going to be, oh, you probably have these notifications off. You're going to get probably an article on Wikipedia or something with describing who Abraham Lincoln is. But if you search for weather, you're most likely not wanting to get the definition of weather. And so Google understands this. And what Google does is if you search for weather, it anticipates intent. And the way it anticipates intent is there's billions of searches every day. So what Google does very well is it starts seeing these patterns and it starts saying, well, like in general, the large majority of people where they're searching the word weather, they actually want to know what the weather is outside of where they live. And so then they use context. So the other thing they look at is if I search for weather, I'm going to get Boston weather. If some of you look for weather, you're going to get Tallahassee weather, Miami weather, New York weather. So it's going to be relevant to where you are located. So searching weather is going to be different for every person. The other thing that's going to happen is if you're in high school or in college and you're doing research and you're doing a paper on climate change, and you've been doing searches related to climate change and searching for definitions, you actually might get an article in your search engine results for the search for weather. There's actually something defining weather. So it really does take into context who you are, what your past searches have been, where you're located, and the intention of your search. And because it's about intention and it is about answering questions, then what Google is caring less and less about is the actual keywords. And what it is caring is about topics. And so because of this, it has continued to evolve with further, with more and more and more updates. Most recent ones having to do with being optimized for search, for mobile search, and being making sure that you have the right type of security for your website. So ton of updates for Google. The other thing we've been seeing is we've seen the evolution of Google. If you remember Google search 5-7 years ago, you only get like a bunch of links, right? Now you get these snippets at the beginning. You get, sometimes you get direct answers. I read an article the other day, about 60% of Google searches do not end up in a click because you can see the answer right after you click on search. So you don't need to go into an article, which is a huge change. You get these cartwheels here, and you get other related searches. Google is recommending, hey, if you're looking for this, you might be also looking for these other things, so click here. So Google has really become very complex. And for those who are trying to use content and SEO to get in front of more customers, it becomes very puzzling, right? It definitely became very puzzling for HubSpot about 5 years ago when we started to incorporate all these changes in the way we do content marketing to generate demand for our business. So I'll take you back 4 years ago to how HubSpot structured content. So in the past, we had our main, if you will, our main URL is a HubSpot.com URL. That has the most authority in Google search. Now, below that is our subdomain for the blog. Now, that also had a ton of authority in search, a little bit less than HubSpot, right? It was borrowing a little bit from HubSpot.com. It had its own kind of elements of authority, but it was definitely smaller, than HubSpot. And then you had the blogs, and we had blogs for different kind of areas. Each one would have different levels of authority. But what happened is, if you keep going down that infrastructure, then you have your actually blog posts, your articles, your content. And what happened was each piece of content had the same weight. What I mean by that is, if you're now moving to a world where search is not determined by the actual keyword, but by your ability to answer a question and by the topic that is being searched for, now you're going to start having articles competing with each other. And that is not great, right? You could have stuff like what started happening to us was if someone is asking about content marketing strategy, they would have these two articles would have equal weight, right? On the right, you can see it's a very extensive, comprehensive guide to content marketing strategy. It takes 21 minutes to read. So we invested a ton of effort, and it's a high quality piece of content. On the left side, you see what we call a niche article. Now, this is content marketing strategy for virtual reality. Now, in our eyes, the one on the right has a much higher weight, and we put more assets into it. We put more effort into conversion. We put more effort into actually generating demand for our business from the one on the right. We put a little bit less effort on the one on the left. But for Google, when someone is doing a search on content marketing strategy, because of how we had structured our content, they were both being seen as equals. So we had to take a step back and say, well, like, how do we structure our content in a way that Google now understands which articles have the most weight, and how do we also do it in a way where we're now trying to rank for specific topics. And so this is what we came up with. This is what we call our topic cluster strategy. Now, what we try to do with this is, if you see that kind of at the core of each cluster is a pretty broad topic, like e-commerce, like email marketing. So these are broad topics, and we're trying to become the authority on, in the HubSpot's case, we're trying to become the authority on hundreds of these. And what we want to do is, if someone is searching for email marketing, we will have a very extensive piece of content, what we call a pillar page about email marketing, and then we'll have a satellite subtopic niche articles that kind of reinforce our authority on that topic. And so if we take a deeper look into how these look is, again, we have a large piece of content, and what I mean by that is like an extensive, like an ultimate guide to e-commerce, right, type of content, and then we have the sub articles around it. And what happened with this is we increase the sphere of influence of this topic for searches. Now, taking a step back, remember I was talking about how Google used to be about keywords. What happened back then is you would have to write articles for each single type of keyword. Now, as processing of queries by Google became more based on natural language, what happened was if someone is searching something around email marketing, there's actually thousands of ways of searching about email marketing. And you can't do good SEO trying to target thousands of different variations of a query. It's just basically almost nearly impossible. So what you do is you try to, again, signal that in that topic, you're the authority. So however you look for content and answers related to email marketing, however different types of queries you can have, the result at the end of the day is going to be an article from HubSpot about email marketing. So that's a much more effective way of doing SEO. Now, here's an example of how we do it, right? We'll pick a topic. So we'll pick a broad topic with high monthly volume search, like e-commerce, and we'll write the ultimate guide. It has a ton of information. It's a high value piece of information that ranks really high in Google. The other thing is we'll create these satellite posts around it. So we call these more niche articles. So in the topic of e-commerce, we might have an article about inventory management, or we may have an article about, how do you calculate fixed cost if you're in e-commerce. So again, we're really making sure that Google understands, hey, we want to be an authority for e-commerce. So if someone's searching something in the area of the topic of e-commerce, we want to show, right? And we want this to have the highest weight in those searches. Like most of the results are going to show these articles. Now, if we have articles which have an intent that is most closely related to like inventory management for e-commerce or calculating fixed costs, then we're going to get these kind of more niche articles being effective. Now, this is great, but you can imagine moving from this to this took a lot of effort. Right? I think we had something in the area of 15,000 articles we had to reorganize to have these topic clusters. So for us, it was very painful. It was very painful to go through that process. Well, what I hope this means for you is, if you're kind of getting started with content, you're actually kind of starting from the get-go with the right practices, right? Like you can, from the get-go, if you don't have already thousands of articles written, you can start kind of writing and planning how you're going to develop content to generate demand for your business using the topic cluster from the get-go. So let's go into how you actually do this. So there's a 3-step process for creating topic clusters. The first thing is you need to identify your product keywords, right? One of the things you don't want your content is to compete with your product. Like if someone is searching for CRM, we want our CRM page to show up, not the ultimate guide to choosing a CRM, because people are kind of closer to purchase. So we want to direct them to our product pages. So you need to identify your product keywords. Now, what you do is, once you have your product keywords, and we're going to go into detail with the next slides. Once you have your product keywords, then you map those keywords to topic clusters, right? Now, if you're talking about, let's say, marketing automation or email marketing, then can you talk about a topic cluster related to email marketing? And then you're going to identify keywords for your blog posts. So those satellite elements. So again, we take a topic cluster, and the minimal viable kind of version of a topic cluster is you have 1 pillar page and 3 to 6 blog posts. With each blog post, you're trying to target between 2 and 3 keywords. So in general, you're trying to cover about 10 keywords together as a cluster with your topic cluster. And what that means is that you're not actually targeting 9 keywords. You're targeting that topic, but 9 keywords allow you to grab more of that topic as you execute. So that's a minimal viable version. So again, where do we start? We start with the product keywords. So the product keywords are these bottom of the funnel keywords that you want your product pages to rank for. They tend to be lower traffic, but they tend to be higher intent. What I mean by that is the monthly search volume for a product keyword is probably smaller, but if someone is searching for that specifically, then it means they're probably closer to a purchasing motion, which is why you want to direct them to your product page. So these are a few examples of what a product page is for HubSpot. So calls to action is a very specific tool in our marketing hub. So if someone's searching about calls to action, we don't want to get them to, hey, how do you execute an amazing inbound marketing strategy? We actually want to show them our product page for calls to action and how it works within our marketing hub platform. If someone is once someone in sales wants to research email tracking for their sales emails, we actually have that product page. If you're in the customer service area, how do I build a knowledge-based library for my customers? We also want to direct you to our actual tool that we have, our product, for building a knowledge base for your business. We don't want you to land in how do you service your customers better, ultimate guide, right? We don't want content to compete with our product. Now, once we have that product page, then we're going to figure out which is the topic cluster that we're going to build that is closely related to that product. So again, the product page is really about the how. If we go back to CTAs, like how do you execute on a CTA? How does a CTA work? Where do you put it in? Which pages? Where do you click and where does it get you to? So it's a very specific about product. Now, the content is more about the why, the where, the when, the options, right? And the strategy. So it's a little bit more abstract. Oh, and you want to map every single product page to at least one topic cluster, because that topic cluster is what's going to generate traffic to eventually your product page. Now, once you have that, make sure, as we said before, make sure that your pillar page and your product page don't compete. So you need to figure out separate keywords. So if we're talking about our SEO tool, right? HubSpot has an SEO tool, a tool within our Marketing Hub platform that allows you to execute on SEO. So that's the SEO tool. Now, that's our product page is the SEO tool. If we want to rank for SEO content, we actually talk about SEO strategy. So we don't want them to compete. And so our pillar page is going to be about SEO strategy. And there are other options there and other examples of how to differentiate a product from a cluster. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but this just kind of gives you an idea of how content works within what is a marketing funnel, right? The what, the why, the who, the when, and the how. And you start with your product page is the how. It's kind of the bottom of your marketing funnel. If you go one up, is your pillar page, and if you keep going up that marketing funnel, if you will, then you have your blog post. So again, here's a chart you can use. Very simple is how you can use this to make sure your pillar pages are not competing with your product pages. Now, once you've identified your cluster, like your topic cluster head keyword, that is the broad high level keyword of your pillar page, then you're going to identify the longer tail keywords for your cluster content. So again, if we're talking about e-commerce, that is our broad high level pillar page keyword, e-commerce, then we're going to go into like what other content can we talk about, or do we need to target with our more niche blog posts that reinforce that cluster. So, and I'm going to go through in the next few slides on how to do that actual research. But for the time being, just know you have your pillar content and then you have your satellite niche blog post, each targeting between 2 and 3 longer tail keywords. So in general, your minimal topic cluster should target at least 9 long tail keywords. Now, you could have more than 3 blog posts per topic cluster. You could have 6, you can have 15. So it's kind of up to you to figure out how much you want to invest in a certain topic cluster. We're going to talk about some KPIs to see if it's worth doing it at the end of this presentation. What are the KPIs to see, well, should I keep investing in this topic cluster, or should I leave it at that minimal viable version, and should I keep targeting other topics to rank for? So again, another example, if your pillar page is then like content marketing, really broad, content marketing is a super broad, high value of monthly searches, then you're going to have these examples of what you could reinforce, or what are the niche articles that you could have around a pillar page around content marketing. So you'll have pillar page content marketing and then blog posts about strategy, brainstorming techniques, blogging mistakes by personas, etc. So this is how you build those clusters. Now, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, well, how do I know if I have a pillar page or just a blog post? So if I'm thinking of a piece of content or a certain topic, is that topic big enough to warrant creating a topic cluster around it, or should it be a part of another existing topic cluster? If I write about inventory management for e-commerce, should inventory management for e-commerce be a pillar page with a bunch of niche articles around it, or should that one be the niche article that is reinforcing another bigger topic cluster? So we saw the example before, right, where we had the ultimate guide to e-commerce, and inventory management is actually a niche article. But maybe if you're Spotify, or maybe if you're a company that is focused 100% on e-commerce, maybe you want inventory management in e-commerce to be a pillar page through which you add satellite blog posts. So how do you decide? Here's how we decide at HubSpot if some topic merits being a pillar page. So the first thing we look at is the monthly search value. And for us, it has to be, the term itself has to be equal or greater to 15,000 searches a month. Now that is HubSpot, right? We operate at high volumes of lead generation, right? Like we're talking about millions of visits a month to our blogs. So for us, something warranting a pillar page should have at least 15,000. And I give you a word of warning, because for some of you, it may be okay to say 5,000 is a monthly search value that I want for my business. Maybe the type of industry that I'm in, I'm never going to find a keyword with 15,000. So it's okay to move that around. It may be higher, right? It may be if you are in education or real estate, maybe you want 30, 50,000 monthly searches. Regardless, you first define what is a reasonable target for monthly search value for your topic clusters. So for us, it's 15,000. If that happens, we give that a point. The next thing is, can I identify then niche articles, subtopics, about 5 of them, each targeting a keyword that has 2,000 each, right? So we're talking about 10,000 monthly searches in addition to the 15. So that will be 25,000 searches a month. So for us, if we find 5 subtopics that could have 2,000 searches a month, then we say that's another 2 points. Is the topic aligned with one of our products? If yes, that's a point. And the other thing is we're looking for emerging topics. Emerging topics are a great source of growth because they're not as highly competitive with your other content competitors out there who are trying to also rank for it. So if you can find these emerging topics where you can more easily rank and for which you know the demand and monthly search are going to go up, then that is a great investment of time. For us, that is worth a point. For you, it may be worth more. If you're a startup and you're in this nascent technology, if you're in nascent technologies, maybe I would probably give more weight to finding emerging topics. Now, HubSpot did a great job earlier this year helping companies migrate during this difficult year, migrate from a operation that is presential to an operation that happens online. And so this shift from marketing teams that are now working remote, sales teams that are working remote, that shift was a huge need in the market. We also noticed that was a topic, the topic of remote working, remote teams was going to go up significantly from March till like right now. So we started investing a ton of time in articles and the topic of remote marketing, remote sales teams, remote work. So that's just another example of finding an emerging topic for your pillar page. Again, if we accumulate 3 points or more, that for us is enough to say we're going to invest time in making that into a pillar page. Pillar page requires a ton of effort and time to develop. Now, I'm going to make a pause here because now after this, I'm going to go into some strategies to help you figure out which keywords to target. Because that's always a question to like, hey, I work in this industry, my company does X. I'm really not sure which is the first keyword that I should target. So we're going to talk about that in the next session of today's presentation, but I want to make a pause for questions you have at this point.
Jose, we've had some great questions, one of which came from, I can't pronounce the first name, so I apologize, Rian. And he wants to know exactly what is one of the best ways to make money fast while still running a sustainable business. Is paid marketing the way to go? Which social media should I be on? I know you talked about some of those keywords and tying that back into a blog. How do they get that information out to there? And what are the best ways to do that?
Great question. And it's a question that I always get. Like when I used to work at HubSpot when I started. I wasn't lucky enough to start working with startups. So I was working with more mid-market established business. And the conversation about SEO is very different with established business than it is with, let's say, a startup who just received funding and they tell me, Jose, this is great, but I have 6 months runway. So how do I balance, this great practice of growth long-term with my necessity to, make money fast? And that is a great point. And so my point is, you don't replace paid advertising, paid marketing. You don't replace that with SEO. You complement it with SEO. And the reason is, and the danger is, because there's such a need to generate demand today, because I have a limited runway for my business. You actually say, well, let's just do paid marketing and let's not invest time in content marketing or SEO. And what happens is, you do need to do the paid marketing because you need to generate those leads today. And content marketing does take a while, right? Like, you're not going to get significant tangible results with SEO within the first 3 months. And that could be a long time for some of you. But what happens is, if you don't do that, if you don't do content marketing, if you don't start working on your SEO and you just depend on paid marketing, you're going to be okay now, but you're just delaying the inevitable. And the inevitable is you can't cope with the level of demand you need to grow just by doing paid marketing. Paid marketing, what happens with paid marketing is the following. One, it becomes very expensive very rapidly because people start just bidding for that same keyword. And the keyword that today is $3 per click, tomorrow is going to be $6. That's just a natural development of keywords and paid advertising, especially if you're paying for digital ads. The next thing that happens is you eventually run out of stuff to pay for. Right? Like if you buy this keyword, if you buy the other keyword, eventually you hit a ceiling. And that ceiling is really hard to surpass. And it's really hard because the problem with paid advertising is it gives you results quick, which is very inefficient. What I mean by that is, every person that sees a paid ad, I don't remember the ratios, but let's say it's 1 in 100. 1 in 100 will click and 1 in 1,000 will buy. So you're getting in front of a ton of people, you're getting clicks rapidly, you're getting leads rapidly, but the conversion rates are really small. With organic, it's 25 times larger. It's 25 times more likely that someone will click. So it's more efficient. The other thing is the TAM, right? The total addressable market, if you will, of organic versus paid. So paid becomes a ceiling really quickly, but organic, the total addressable amount of clicks or amount of leads you can get from organic is 25 times larger because of the conversion rates and because of the durability. And to give you an example, if I pay for inbound marketing keyword today, and I'll pay whatever I have to pay for it, I'll get that ad on the top of Google. If I do things right? It's not that easy, but let's say I do things right, I get that result when someone searches for inbound marketing. My ad is there on top of HubSpot organic content. Now, HubSpot's organic content is going to get more clicks just because it's organic. But let's say people click on that paid ad. Tomorrow, I don't pay for it. I'm not going to show, right? If I don't pay, like Google is like a landlord, like you're renting that space. If you start paying, you have to move out. What happens tomorrow is I don't pay for it. I'm not showing. Whoever pays for it is going to show. HubSpot's still going to show. So HubSpot's going to show there forever, right? Because they've made a great effort in staying organically relevant for that topic. And it's not something that you just get to that first level or that first positioning results and you just let it run. You keep working on it to maintain that first result, but you stays there forever. So this is a long answer to say you need to do ads if you're starting out, if you need demand today. But you need to get going with SEO, because if you don't do that today, you're going to be in a situation in the future where you're just not going to be able to reach the level of demand generation that your business needs to grow. You're going to need both. And what happens is, what I've seen is, today, 90% of your leads are going to come from paid, 10% are going to come from organic. What happens with time is those, I don't know if I'm doing this right? The organic leads and the organic leads are here and these are the paid. They start doing this. And eventually what you want your business is 90% of your leads, and this is kind of the case of HubSpot, right? 90% of our leads are coming from organic after, you know, months and years of work, and then paid are top 20% of our lead generation. And so that's more sustainable. That allows us to keep growing at the pace we want to grow. And it also decreases the cost of customer acquisition. Because, you know, we write an article 3 years ago, it still generates leads today. I don't have to keep paying every day to Google. Sorry, that was a long answer, but I think that's a very, very important question that was asked.
Absolutely. I think your ability to pair those two together is a key factor in the success of the entrepreneurs listening today.
Cool. So let's keep going. Here. So let's say you're now going to start. You're like, I know what I have to do. I know I have to topic clusters. I understand how they work. I understand why I have to do them, right? Google today works very different than it worked 5 years ago. So I need to organize my content this way. But where do I start? How do I find those keywords? What's the first keyword that I'm going to shoot for? And so here are some recommended tools for you. And this is what the HubSpot team uses as well, right? One reason is they're really good. Second, it's free, right? HubSpot is an established company, but who doesn't like free? So Ahrefs is probably what I've heard from the SEO team is one of their preferred ones. SEMrush is a great one too, and Keywords Everywhere. Those three tools are really good tools for doing keyword research. Now, there are different things you research for, and we're going to go through them. One of the strategies that is very simple is just search for your keyword that you have in your head and scroll down in the Google searches to related searches and see what Google is telling you. People who are looking for that kind of topic also look at it by typing this type of phrases. So Google itself, with those related searches area of that's when you scroll down all the way down to the SERP page. It tells you what other keywords you should be trying to explore as a potential candidate to write about. So Keywords Everywhere has a kind of plug that you put in your content. If you have your Google page and you do a search, and if you have the Keywords Everywhere snippet, then it will tell you on the right side, you know, if someone searched for content marketing strategy, what also did they search for? They search for what is content marketing, content plan for social media, content marketing SEO. And it gives you an idea of the volume search for those keywords, right? So again, a great tool to start getting into what sort of keywords should I be writing about. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to kind of see what other people who are trying to rank for those same keywords are doing. So basically you're looking at your competition. Which are the highest traffic, most authoritative publications for that topic? And what you do is you do a bunch of searches and you start seeing some patterns. You start seeing some people start showing all the time. Like if you search for email marketing and marketing automation and digital marketing and remote stuff, you start seeing like HubSpot is everywhere, right? Like, it's like, okay, these are this is going to be one of my main competitors for these topics. Is also going to be a good guide for me to, what are they doing that I can copy? What are they not doing that I could do to get some advantage? And one of the things that is important to note is your competition for content ranking may not be the same as your competition for your product, right? So for HubSpot, our competition for email marketing, some of the competition for email marketing content to generate leads for a business, some of them will be our other competitors for product, like your Marketo, your Salesforce, but not all the time. Like sometimes they have different strategies for customer acquisition. So someone like Salesforce is not as invested in content marketing to generate leads as HubSpot is. So sometimes for us, someone like Neil Patel is a bigger competitor for attention of content than Salesforce. Neil Patel writes a lot about SEO and a lot about marketing. So although we don't compete with Neil Patel for product, we do compete with him for attention for his article. So just something to be aware of. Just don't think only of your product competitors when you're trying to see who are you trying to beat to get attention for your content. And so if we do this as an example for e-commerce, and we start searching, okay, e-commerce website designs or e-commerce websites, or the definition of e-commerce, right? Or how to start an e-commerce business. What we see is, there are different results for each search, but we start seeing the same names, right? BigCommerce, Oberto, Shopify. They're showing everywhere. So now we know these are the three companies that we're going to be competing against for attention for this type of topic. So again, we identify the most authoritative publications for that topic. It may be a magazine, right? It may be a blog that has nothing to do with product. You still are competing with them for attention. And then once you have these names, like in this example, Shopify, Oberto, then you plug those URLs into a competitive keyword research tool. And again, Ahrefs and SEMrush have this sort of functionality that you can use to do this competitive keyword research. So, and one cool thing to do is something we call the content gap. So what are they ranking for that we're not? Let's say we want to be one of the authoritative figures for e-commerce content. And now we saw, well, BigCommerce, Shopify, and Oberto are very well respected in the eyes of Google, are very well respected sources of information about and answers about e-commerce. Now, what we want to do next is, well, what do they rank for? What are the sort of topics and answers they're covering that are very important, so that we can see, well, they're ranking for Google Shopping, they're ranking for how to sell on eBay, and maybe we see, oh, we don't have anything about how to sell on eBay. That's an idea of something we need to start writing about. Google Shopping, oh, we haven't created anything related to Google Shopping, but these three competitors are actually trying to rank for it. So we need to start investing time in developing content for that. And it also gives you an idea of why they're doing it, right? Like volume, 185,000 searches a month. That's pretty well worth investing time in developing. So again, gap analysis. There's also one in SEMrush. So this is the one from Ahrefs. This is the one from SEMrush. They call it keyword gap, but it's the same thing, right? What are they ranking for that we're not? And that's probably an indication for us of what we should be investing time in ranking for, right? Now, the other thing is, traffic share, really cool feature, because then if you look at a keyword and you're seeing, well, like we saw before, right? They have these three main competitors for that keyword, but like, what is the share of that keyword? Maybe we see those three, but in reality, like 70% of that traffic for that keyword goes to Shopify. So, they're not equal in that competition either. So Shopify in that example is our biggest competitor that we need to see what they're doing, how they're doing it, see, can we beat them at that game, or how can we get closer to what they're doing, right? So again, you see the traffic share by domain. So in this case, for this specific keyword, like e-commerce, Oberto has 22%, whereas BigCommerce has 7%. So again, two competitors, but Overlow is way higher in the game of SEO than BigCommerce is. And we're actually competing more with Forbes, which is a media outlet and not a product competitor. So again, goes to that example of keeping your mind open on who your competition may be. The next thing is, it's a good idea to have a document where you can organize all your research. Like, who are your main competitors? What's the keyword you're going to go for? What are the headers that you're going to use? The H2, the H3 level headers that you're going to use? What are the featured snippets that show today? Who is your competition? What sort of media are you going to use? Which sort of channels are you going to distribute this content through? Which goes a little bit to that question we had before, right? And it has to do a lot with your persona, but all this you organize in a file so that everybody's on the same page. And then finally, you do all this effort to understand what you're going to write about. You organize it in this topic cluster structure to make sure you're maximizing your likelihood of succeeding at SEO. The next thing is you actually want to measure if you're succeeding. So how do you track your results? And so the way we do it is we try to see how the pillar page is performing, how each of these niche articles, blog posts are performing on their own, and then how's the cluster performing? Like, if the cluster is e-commerce, how's the cluster performing? And so for the pillar page, we want to see, well, like that head keyword that we chose, like let's say email marketing, what's our rank for that keyword? How many backlinks are we creating? Now, one of the things that I recommend, it's usually one of the questions that come later on in the session. One of the things that happen when you're starting out, when you're not HubSpot, who has been doing this for 15 years, and you're a little newer to the game, one of the things that people don't do enough is making sure they have enough backlinks to their articles. Backlinks is the most effective way to get more visibility in the eyes of Google. If you have more backlinks, Google interprets that as you being our authority. If more people are referencing your content to talk about a certain topic, Google says, well, like that, then that's the expert, because everybody's mentioning this person when they talk about this topic. So backlinks, very important to measure. How many organic views per month are you getting? Basically, how much traffic are you generating? And for most marketers who have a north of revenue generation, conversion rate is very important. So a ton of marketers are investing a ton of effort in content, because they usually are working in organizations that have them on a lead generation quota. Like HubSpot is an example. Like our marketing team, a great team, it's a very customer focused team. They also operate on a lead generation quota, and they have to make sure they're reaching that quota. And so one of the things they do is they're trying to measure not only the traffic to a certain piece of content, but what is the conversion rate of that traffic. So we may have two articles. One is generating 10,000 views a month. The other one is generating 1,000. But the one that is generating 1,000 has a conversion. So that's people who want to engage with us further and maybe speak with our sales team at a 20% rate. The one with 10,000 views has a 0.5% conversion rate. So it's very useful, but it doesn't really lead to us generating leads for the business. So conversion rate is a really important metric to keep a track on when you're evaluating your pillar page and your blog post. It's blog post, same thing, right? Rank for that keyword, organic views, and total views and conversion rate. The other thing we want to do is we want to evaluate the value of the cluster itself. So the pillar plus the blog post. If we take that as trying to target or reach authority on a certain topic, how much of the monthly search value potential is being captured? So if we go back to that example of the MVP, we have, let's say, our pillar page is 15,000, and we have 3 articles of 2K monthly searches a month. So that's 6 plus 15. So we have a potential 21,000 searches a month for that cluster. How much of that 21,000 are we getting? Are we getting 10%? Are we getting 20%? And so this is something we evaluate at HubSpot. And for some topic clusters, we have 20% of the share of searches. For some others, we have 50. And so we're trying to see, well, why do we have 50 in this one? What can we learn? Can we do more pillar content related to this content, because we're really strong here. So we want to make more of these 50% quota or market share topics. What is going on with the 20% one? Is it more highly competitive? Do we need to keep trying, or do we need to try something different? So monthly or percentage of the MSV captured, a very important aspect of evaluating how we're doing with our pillar content strategy. So this is a ton of information. I'm just going to leave you before we go into Q&A with a few resources. Again, Robert, I don't know if we can share this with the public, but I'll share the slide deck with you in case you want to share with the people who are attending today. And there's a ton to dig into what we covered today. Today was just like a brief overview, right, of 45 minutes on SEO. But I think these are going to be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jose. And one of the questions that we got asked was, what are the best resources for HubSpot offering for startups? And I think this is a phenomenal resource. If any of our watchers are not registered on Tallahassee Startup Week, feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll get this resource to you. Another question we had for you, Jose, was from Ryan, and it has to do with email. How do we know that our email is getting out? What are some of the best practices around that to ensure that people are receiving them? And ultimately, is this one of the best ways for e-commerce to reach our market, or are there better ways to generate sales? Or should, the last part of this question is, should I be focusing on email marketing more for brand awareness and promotion of the company itself rather than conversion?
That is a great question. We could have a whole different session on email marketing, right? But I'll give you a short answer on how I view email marketing. So when we talk about SEO, we're talking about getting found. Right? SEO is about getting found for the first time or for the 10th time, but we're getting found. Like some people find HubSpot for the first time when they search about X. Maybe they know HubSpot, maybe they're HubSpot customers, but when they're searching for something else, they find HubSpot again. So in a way, you could say it's a getting found. It could be a branding effort. It could also be a lead generation effort, like getting sales effort. Now for HubSpot, we tend to do it we try to get, the bottom line is the lead generation effort, but it does help with branding, right? If you say inbound marketing, most people are going to equate that with HubSpot. Now, it helps that we invented the term and it came from a book written by our founders, but still today, after 15 years, our brand is associated with inbound marketing and now with inbound and with sales and remote sales. So branding effort, great. Where do I see email coming in? Email is becoming a trickier and trickier aspect of marketing. And the reason is, with GDPR, I think that was 2 or 3 years ago in Europe, is definitely affecting companies in North America, is this whole concept of, if you want to email someone, you need their explicit consent to do so. And so how do you get that consent before you send them an email? So you need to get their consent to send them an email. You can't ask for the consent sending an email. It's like a catch-22. So the way you do that consent is with content, right? When someone is reading your blog post and then downloads another guide or downloads the video in that blog post and gives you their information and they say they consent to further communications, that's one way of getting that consent. Now, how I see marketing being used, I'm more of a salesperson and a revenue person. So the way I see email is, I use email. I think the best way of using email is to move people toward purchase. So when people read content and they engage with your company, they're going to engage with your company at different stages of their buyer's journey. Some are ready to buy. Some are just asking, hey, how much is your CRM? And that's great. They'll go to a CRM Pro page. They'll probably download and purchase online directly. I may not even need to send them an email unless they leave an open cart. And so I'll send them an email to, hey, make sure that you finish your purchase. But that's like 5% of people, like 95% or it's 96. I don't remember exactly, but it's a 90-something% of your content website visitors are not in a purchase motion. They're either in a consideration, what we call a consideration stage, so evaluating alternatives, or even at an awareness stage where they're just trying to understand what's going on with their lives or their businesses. And so what happens is they'll find content that you've written for your persona at that stage, but then you need to move them all the way to wanting to buy or being ready to buy your product. And so email marketing is a great way of moving people along that buyer's journey. So if you want to understand further, and if you haven't heard these terms before, what I will do is search in Google for buyer's journey, and then understand what those stages are. Understand that you're going to create content for each of the journeys, and then you can use email to move people through that journey. So if someone's in awareness, can I send you email with content that is going to get you to that consideration stage? And then if you're in consideration stage, can I send you emails with content and actions that will lead you to being ready to speak with our sales team? So that's how I've seen email done the best way.
Wonderful. I think today was an a ton of information, really incredible. We truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and sharing that information with our community. And we look forward to future events with you. This week is jam-packed full of content for people to find on all sorts of different topics. And we look forward to hearing what you look to see the best from. Ultimately, what did you value the most from this conversation? Continue to share those thoughts. We can reach out to Jose at any time and get any answers you need. And HubSpot has a tremendous amount of content that you can look at HubSpot/startups. It's a great resource for any topic when it comes to SEO, marketing, and really the customer journey, and to bringing that content to you. Ultimately, Domi Station is here to bring you this content and share with you. We have a phenomenal opportunity currently to get scholarships to our programming, where you'll have access to resources like HubSpot, MasterClasses, and tremendous amount of additional content and a mentor network to help support and grow what you're working on. We look forward to hearing from you, and thank you again so much for being here, Jose. It was absolutely incredible.
Thank you, Robert. It was a pleasure. And again, if anyone wants to talk further, I'm on LinkedIn, Jose Martins HubSpot. Send me a quick note and we'll keep the conversation going.
Thank you, everyone.